Darlene has training and skills to serve her community, mentor, and aid in development of future leaders with particular focus on women. Darlene is also a writer, a producer of several television shows, projects, and the author of several books, and the founder and president of Billionaire Minds and the National Widows Association. Darlene has expanded her service to the municipalities by recently completing her training to become an ambassador for the United Nations through the Word of Life Christian Fellowship. As a revelatory teacher of the gospel, community servant, and entrepreneur, Darlene has also authored several books and recently launched an AI agency to help others use the technology to improve their lives, business, ministry, and legacies. Give it a hand for Darlene Turner. Our next panelist is Ivana Vuknik. Got it. Ivana is a certified financial planner and certified divorce financial analyst at Performance Wealth, where she works closely with individuals and families to help them build, protect, and manage their wealth with clarity and confidence. She specializes in creating customized wealth plans that simply complex decisions and support long-term financial goals. Ivana brings a strong foundation in financial analytics, market research, and personalized planning. Always with the focus on delivering exceptional service, she is committed to making wealth management an empowering collaborative process for clients of every stage of life. Give her a hand. Next, we have Dr. Tracy Brooks. Come on over. Dr. Tracy Brooks is a faith-driven leader, financial educator, author, and caregiver advocate committed to helping women build legacy spiritually, financially, and generationally. She is the founder of Brooks Financial Institute, an online financial literacy school designed to equip youth, families, and caregivers with practical tools to steward wealth. With a background education in ministry and financial services, Dr. Brooks uniquely bridges kingdom principle with real-life application. She is passionate about helping women, especially those in the sandwich generation, navigate caregiving, purpose, provision, without losing themselves in the process. We'll talk a lot about that tonight. Dr. Brooks is also the creator of the Live to Live Again docuseries, which highlights real stories of resilience, restoration, and the power of preparation, and the author of several work focused on healing, identity, legacy building. Whether speaking, teaching, or mentoring, Dr. Tracy Brooks empowers women to break limiting mindsets, walk boldly in their God-given authority, and live out their legacy. Give her a hand. Next on the list, we have Dr. Kenya Martin. Heavy hitters tonight, ladies. She is a veteran, a wife, mother, and owner of a GBT Logistics group. GBT Logistics was one of the 300 companies chosen from a pool of 400,000 applicants to the partner with Amazon, Incorporated in 2018. Under Dr. Martin's leadership, GBT has grown into a multi-million-dollar company that values integrity, service, and excellence. As a decorated veteran, Kenya brings unique perspectives gained from her military experience to her organization, empowering her employees to reach their full potential. Using real-world examples, Kenya sheds light on how invaluable talent each person brings can positively impact the mission. Kenya knows that excellence is a journey, not simply a destination. Give it up. I'm about to get off this stage. I don't belong with us. Just kidding. This is wonderful. Last but not least, our moderator. Come on, Miss Katina. Miss Katina is a vice president at Wintrust Bank, Wintrust Commercial Banking in Chicago, based right here on LaSalle Street. She's navigating Council and as the current assistant treasurer for the board of directors at the University Club of Chicago. That's nice. A graduate of the University of Iowa with a degree in finance and accounting. She combines academic knowledge with practical experience to drive business growth. Her role involves not only managing client relationships, but also mentoring upcoming talent in the industry. Come on, welcome and give everyone a hand. All right.
That was tough. I didn't mean to follow these four wonderful ladies. Well, great. I think we'll just jump right in and start talking. For this series, the topic of financial and economic security and work-life balance and caregiving. I guess we should start with the basics. Why is financial literacy a health issue and not just an economic one? Who would like to start?
I have the mic, so does that mean I should start? Okay.
It's all you.
So financial literacy is all about understanding your options. It's about giving women more control and more choices. And I think the biggest issue is that if you don't understand your options, it can cause a lot of panic or stress. And as we know, stress is the worst thing for us. So it's far beyond, an economic issue. It's mental, it's emotional, it can be physical. And I think that's what our jobs here are, is to empower people to have more clarity and confidence when making those decisions. So ultimately, I think it's important to be able to make the best decision for you and your family.
And because of that, and that's why with financial services and health, it's a health issue, because when we're stressed, and we know it brings about what? High blood pressure, it brings heart attacks, it brings all kind of physical ailments. And so when we understand financial literacy, it really helps you, because you know what I found? This way, right? I found that a prepared people, they don't panic. If you have things in place, so even if you get sick, you're not, stress, I have to say this because I'm sure a lot of us know this already. When you are stressed, you get sicker. People that are in the hospital, a lot of times they stay in the hospital because of stress. They don't know how they're going to pay the bills. But when you have things in place, like living benefits, we'll talk about that a little later perhaps. When you have things in place that will take care of the bills while you're healing, then you get well easier. You don't stress as much. And your mentality is, you're able to be more at peace than having mental stress and mental aches and, all the things that we go through when we're stressed, especially as women.
Okay. Well, since we're mentioning stress, I'm going to go a little bit deeper with how stress affects the body. So one of the things that it's going to cause is elevated cortisol level. So everyone's been hearing about that term, cortisol. So having cortisol go up with the flight or fight process, that's fine. That's fine in a regular stressful situation. But when you have chronic high cortisol levels, that's when you're getting into the high blood pressure, diabetes, all the other chronic illnesses that are rampant in women. So when you are able to tackle that one big stressor, which is finances for a lot of people, you can tackle one of the motivators for chronic disease. So for me, that's one of the things, the personal journey that I'm on, is to make sure that my cortisol levels are lower. And one way to do that is to have plenty of money in my pocket. So
and along with all of that, we have to normalize that financial illiteracy is hidden by the health crisis. because is it a health crisis or is it really a financial crisis when a woman doesn't have her mammogram because she can't afford the copay? And then gets a late diagnosis. Is that a health crisis or is that a financial crisis? When a woman has to decide whether to buy her medicine or pay her mortgage, is that a health crisis or is that a financial crisis? Well, the truth is that financial illiteracy in many cases causes health crisis that in some cases could have been avoided, because those elements of financial illiteracy that cause people to not have enough or perceive or not believe that the priority of health care is the priority, can cause their situations to be elevated. And so that financial crisis becomes a health crisis. But guess what? Also in the reverse, then many times, even those that have planned pretty well financially, you can get one major health crisis, and then that health crisis becomes a financial crisis. Because if it's anything like one of the members of my church, she was healthy and very financially literate, but she was suddenly diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She said she was the wellest person dying she ever knew. And guess what? The doctor told her, you better find $1 million, because that's what it costs. So now the health crisis became a financial crisis. So we got to accept that.
You know what? And I'd like to follow up with you on that. And now that we've identified why financial literacy is important and is a health issue, what kind of financial decisions most impact a woman's long-term stability and independence when thinking ahead on things that you can do to ensure your financial
I believe it's mentality. Everything starts with mentality, everything you do. So it is developing, just to singularly put it, it is developing a ownership mentality over a consumer mentality. It is choosing real estate over red bottoms. It is understanding want versus a need. It is beginning to prioritize what is really priority, understanding that preparation is not pessimism. Okay. And a lot of times we want to avoid those kind of conversations. We don't want to think of ourselves as ill. We don't want to think about you being sick and being near death, but that is what ultimately, unfortunately, causes us to be in worse situations when we don't understand that mentality of owning and preparation.
Yeah, I would just say that planning ahead, having a financial plan, being you often find places where you can cut back. And so I think starting early is obviously most important, but it's never too late to start. So that's not to discourage anyone from starting to invest. Start as early as you can. It's, the easiest way is probably through your employer plan, because it gets taken right out of your paycheck and put it into a retirement plan, and then you don't see it. So then you don't have to make the mental conscious decision of, oh, I'm going to put this $100 this month away. It's already deducted. There's typically some kind of employer match. That's leaving free money on the table if you're not putting at least what the employer match is in. So I would say, planning and really starting as early as you can to start saving for your retirement.
And I'll go one step farther. Just by a show of hands, how many of you in here are 59 and a half or over? Look at that. Okay, so did you not know that even with that is so key, having that retirement? But we've learned how to flow. Can everybody still hear me? There we go. But when you have that in place, did you know, some of you may, maybe you don't, but when you are 59 and a half or over, if you're still working, you can move half of that, part of that, all of that over to vehicles where you get the upside of the market without losses. You know, Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, he says there's 2 rules of money. Number 1, don't lose money. And rule number 2, refer back to rule number 1, don't lose money. You know, and then you don't have to put your hands up here, but many people don't even look at their statements. Why? Because they know they're losing money in their retirement, especially with the different, everything that's going on in the economy, even now. You know, when 47 makes a decision before 12 o'clock, then it may go up. He makes another decision before 5 o'clock, it may go down. You know, so your 401k, 403b, 457, deferred comps, TSP, all of that, real estate. You know, I'll even say, you know, your stocks, even your crypto and your Bitcoin, they're connected to the market, you know, and so it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. So to your point, being able to prepare early, and if you are still working and you're 59 and a half or over, you can move that over to vehicles where you don't lose. And even if you decide not to retire till you're like 67, guess what? You'll have a very nice nest egg. And this will also give you peace of mind, even if something. Prepared people, don't panic. That is my mantra for tonight.
It's always so funny to me that even the government makes retiring tough and says you have to be 59 and a half for these special features. Just not even a round number there.
Well, the most impactful decision I think that a lot of women, you know, have a stumbling block with is picking the right partner. So picking the right partner, I think or picking the wrong partner has destroyed a lot of wealth for a lot of women, and also put you behind the curve. So a lot of women have stayed home to be the caregiver. And then, so when you're staying home to be that caregiver, then you're not contributing to your Social Security, and you're supporting someone else to get their education or to further their career. So that puts you behind, correct? So I think the biggest financial decision that panned out for me was picking the right partner and getting the right guidance and counseling early on in our relationship, I think is what panned out. So just being personal, he had to support me in a lot of my career time, and he was the caregiver. So, and then we would take turns. Then it's his turn to go to school. And so just working that and getting that counseling and paying attention to that early counseling, I think is why we are in the position that we're in today. So,
and I'd like to follow up actually with you on that and when you bring up caregiving, that's caregiving in your relationship. What about caregiving when it's caregiving for an older parent or kids? How does unpaid or underpaid caregiving affect a woman's earning power, savings, and retirement security?
well, once again, you look to your Social Security statement. So if you're caregiving early on when your kids are, say, they're toddlers, and then you return to the workforce later on, then you're behind. You're behind at that point. And I've seen it time and again. I see it in my husband. So he had to make up those extra years when I had to traipse around the globe, getting whatever training or whatever mission I was on while I was in the Air Force. He had to do that caregiving. So it put him a couple years behind. So then he worked an additional job to make up that gap. But where you miss out and people don't understand, when you're doing investments and different types of savings, then you have that compounded interest. So he lost out on those compounded interest times. So that's where.
Does anyone, what else would you like to add to the caregiving?
So I'm a caregiver. I don't know, some of you know my story, some of you may not. This is my brother here. This is Devontae. I was a caregiver and still am a caregiver for my husband 2 years after we got married. He had a major stroke. And then my mom, but there's a happy ending, y'all. I'll be like, y'all. But, and then my mom, she adopted my brother when he was 3 months old. And she was my age, I'm 62. So when she adopted him, she took great care of him and all of that. But then as she aged, she had glaucoma, and then She had a 50-50 chance of going blind. And one day she fell, had to have emergency surgery. She went completely blind. So guess who moved in with me and my husband? Devontae and my mom and the cat and dog. They were already there. So, so with being a caregiver for 3 grown folks, plus the cat and dog, right, and still working, of course, it's very difficult. And many of you, how many are caregivers for your parents, right? Especially if you're Gen Xers, then you're the sandwich generation, right? So your kids are in your pocket and you're taking care of your parents. Yeah, so well, you know what? Because you get a chance to just someone that is totally objective, and we need that. We need that. But it helps, number one, with mental health. Being a caregiver, there are resources. Sometimes we don't realize that there are resources available, even as a caregiver. You know, that can help through the Department of Aging. There's a lot of different resources out there. And also, of course, it depends on where you live, but take advantage and Google the resources available. He gets care 3 times a week. And this lady, she's so sweet. When I get home, dishes are washed, things are cleaned up, you know, his clothes are clean and everything is folded up and put up, bed is done, you know, very nicely. So I'm like, well, if I didn't have her. So all I'm saying is sometimes we have to look at the blessing even in the midst of caregiving. I've never said, and God is my witness, I've never said, Lord, why me? I've always said, well, why not me? Because your pain is going to help somebody. You can't heal what you can't feel. So now I can talk with other people and let them know, look, you're going through something so you can be a blessing to someone else. Now I can share with you and other people that are going through caregiving that there are resources that are available. And that helps your mental health. That also helps your financial stability, along with everything else that we're talking about.
Yeah, just to add to that, I would say most people think that it's, just lost wages. I would say the opportunity cost is a lot higher than that. It's more than just your lost wages. It is, again, putting that money into retirement accounts. It is, people call the compounding effect the 8th wonder of the world, because it really can be that powerful. It's mental exhaustion. It's not being present. It's, maybe missing that promotion that you were up for because you couldn't be as present at work. You couldn't be there. You need to take time off. It's taking a pause from your career in 10 years or for 10 years and then trying to get back in and nobody accepting you back in because you've been absent for 10 years because you had to. So I would say it's more than just, giving up the money. There's a lot of opportunity costs that you miss out on to be a caregiver.
Absolutely. And I just want to add and quantify what the Urban Institute says so that we understand why it's important for us to define these kinds of costs and know what the average is, which is hopefully it'll motivate as we educate for people to plan for this. So according to Urban Institute, the average woman who's a caregiver in whatever stage of life loses $295,000 in earnings during her lifetime. We're talking about lifetime. All right. That's a house. That's a retirement account. So that's the average. And guess what? Most of us end up being a caregiver, as they said, either with young children or with our adults or with a spouse or whatever. So that is a cost. So I think part of it is making it aware that it's all these other costs, but it's also a literal cost. So why not plan for it? Because we tend to ignore the things that we don't get paid for. But let's stop looking at things that we're not compensated for and recognize just because there's no compensation, that doesn't mean it doesn't have a high cost.
And following up with that, what are some of the workplace policies or really the lack thereof workplace policies that reinforce the inequities for caregivers?
Well, one of the main things that reinforced inequities is the fact that there are none. Mm-hmm. And silence is a policy. and silence is complicity. And so without having the options with some of their best workers and their most faithful worker, which by the way, women are 75% of caregivers. Okay, so a lot of this impacts us here. So when a woman has to choose between losing her job or her loved one losing their life, what are you going to do? So when when our jobs and even our churches and different places that we interact with are not sensitive to that, then it reinforces. And it's a community, and it's community responsibility, and ignoring it is like ignoring anything else that's dysfunctional and needs change.
Yeah, I think mainly the lack of flexibility. Obviously, some people don't even get paid time off when they have children. My cousin recently had a child and was making good money at her job, but it wasn't enough, or it wasn't more than what the childcare costs are these days. So some people are saying, why would I work if I can't even, I see nothing. I have to send it all to my childcare. So, it's a tough decision these days. And if employers could offer some kind of compensation or some kind of childcare at their, facilities, that would be something special and make it a lot easier for a lot of people.
And what does balance look like? So while we're talking about these struggles, maybe we can talk a little bit about what actual balance for these caregivers look like as well.
Well, taking care of self-care is so important because we give all of ourselves to those that we love and care about. And many times we let ourselves go. One of the books that I will be writing is called Reinventing the Caregiver. So because if we let ourselves go, then what would happen? So self-care is paramount. If you would dare to look at your calendar, put in you first, and then everything else around you. I tell you what, yeah, you could be selfish. Yeah, because you need you, and the people that love you need you. So get your hair done, get your nails. It really, really does.
And I would even say that going to therapy is just for you and is another way of, go get your nails done while you.
They want to be 55 the other time. So I still have babies. And then my mom is 86 this year. So making sure that I'm involved with her caregiver. But sometimes, in between that, our company, my husband, everyone needs you. You're a mother, a sister, you're somebody, you're an aunt. And then I was away for 20 plus years serving in the Air Force. So now that I'm home, everyone wants their little piece. But balance for me is NO. That's right. No, I cannot do it today. Sometimes you have to say no to strike your balance. Throughout my career in the Air Force, throughout my career as a company owner, I've been in that position where do I give 70% to the job today and only 30 to my family? Am I at 50-50? Balance is going to be all over the place. Balance is what it is that day where you can maintain that bit of sanity and maintain your health. So back to what Tracy was saying, it's important to take care of yourself. Right now, I'm doing intermittent fasting. I'm trying to eat as clean as possible. I'm reading labels. This is all stuff that I taught for almost 20 years, teaching human performance to pilots in the Air Force, teaching them how to take care of their bodies, how to take care of themselves. Never took my own advice because I didn't have the time. I didn't have the time to do it. So now over the past, I'd say about 3 months, We've been at it. So I've lost 20 pounds. I feel a heck of a lot better, and I've gotten more efficient at saying no. So.
I'd like to add to that because I believe we're saying the same thing. I just want to kind of bring context to someone who might be in the room that maybe you're in the crux because it sounds like you all learn balance, but the reality is, I believe that there are seasons you don't have balance. But you learn to build it, right? And so when you're in the crux of a crisis, it's impossible to have balance. Just is because can we have balance in the wintertime? If everything's frozen, you can't negotiate with the blizzard, right? And so there are seasons in our lives where there is no balance. But what you do, like in a blizzard, when everything's frozen and shut down, because I want people to understand it's built. Just like same thing, my mother and my father, we were caregiving. I have 4 siblings. And so I was all over the world traveling. My brother was the only one that didn't really have a job. It's 4 of us. And my other brother, he travels like me. So when that just hit, there was no in the winter, plan for your spring.
I like that you call it a season because the season's always going to change, and that's what it really is.
And yeah.
What other kinds of tools or conversations or support would you like to share that help others gain financial confidence?
Well, I can just say for me, the one trajectory changing conversation was the one that my brother, who's 10 years older than me, had with me when I was in my early 20s. Because I was just like the average person, I wasn't saving money. He's a CPA, and he set me down because my family was, and I didn't know my family was as rare as it was. My mother's very shrewd financially. And he set me down. He's like, "Are you in your 401k?" I was like, "No, what's that?" And your job had, and so he explained it to me. And I was like, "I can't afford to do that because I'm doing this, I'm doing." He was like, "No, you can't afford not to." And so he explained to me why I couldn't afford not to. And so it was from a conversation and conversations like this and with your family, the kinds of things we should be talking about to make our children financially literate. And so then I immediately went and I signed up for my 401k. He told me to max it out, and I signed up for 15%. And he said, "You don't never, as you said, leave money on the table." So I got 3% match. So I was saving 18%. I look up in a couple of years, I have a 6-digit savings account. I bought my first home at 24. And all of those, that one conversation shaped how I structured my life.
I think having a trusted advisor can be very helpful. Obviously, I'm a certified financial planner, and that's what I do for a living. But I'm also a certified divorce financial analyst. So I tend to work with a lot of women coming out of divorce who were the primary caregivers at home, were the stay-at-home moms, did give up all their wages, don't really know what's going on with the finances in the house, which is fine because you break up responsibilities in the household. That's how it should be. But I think you should still have a seat at the table having those conversations, know what you guys have, know where it is, because then, you get divorced and you have no idea where to go next. So I, help guide these women because they didn't have a seat at the table. So I think standing up for yourself and having a voice when you are having those difficult situations or seasons that you're going through, knowing what's going on is really important. And now I think, we have financial planning tools that we use, but with AI and, ChatGPT and all these things, you can plug in your scenario and say, what does retirement look like? Or how do I get through this next thing? Can you help me create a budget? There's so many tools online now that you can use that you don't need to hire someone to help you with it. You can just sit at home and do it on your computer. So I think
For her about 20 years ago, She's always been talking about financial planning. And I went to one of the conferences that she spoke at, and my daughter was with her, was with me, and it clicked. Some things are better taught. I'm sorry, some things are better caught than taught. And I caught it. Oh, why did I know this? And it blessed me so that I had no idea that down the line I will be doing the same thing and helping others in financial services and understanding finances. So now, and even thanks to what you've just shared, I was married, met, and I'm actually doing financial services as a business. And I was able to plug into that entity. So now I'm teaching and making money. When people say, well, how do you make your money work for you? Well, there are so many ways that you can do that, even while you're working. So that's all about preparation and planning in your hard seasons. In your hard seasons, continue to prepare and connect with the people that are of how you can actually make money in your.
It's biblical for me, is that when you are generous with your time and with your resources, God will bless you. So that's where I feel my blessings. As an employer, I worked very hard to make sure that I can offer 401k as a small business. That was a monumental feat, especially during the time of COVID. That's when we kind of hit our stride as a delivery service. Just watch God work.
Situations where there was an instant where things kind of changed for you and you had to figure out your own work-life balance in a specific way.
Yeah, specifically, I mean, I served in the Air Force. So at the tail end of my career, an assignment came up where I had to leave the state. And it was in Mississippi. I could have taken my family with me. We lived in Maryland at the time. I have two kids, and they were in maybe 6th grade and 7th grade at the time. And I didn't want them educated in Mississippi. They were in a beautiful school, Christian-based school in Maryland, doing very well academically. We had our family home there. I just didn't want to move my family. But, my husband and I, we had to sit down and get a plan. It was that season. So I grew up in a tight-knit family, in a tight-knit community in Robbins, that I'm just not used to the mom not being there. So I had to get over that mental hurdle that, okay, this is going to be a new balance for us. We spent a ton of money getting me back and forth home, which set us back on our retirement savings. But that was a sacrifice that we had to make at that time in order to move forward as a family. So I always tell people, hey, I don't have to get out of bed and a check is going to come, because I did make it to retirement. But it took that sacrifice. It took that heartache, I didn't miss any major things, but I missed a lot of the little things. And it was hurtful at the time. But now that my kids are able to drive nice vehicles, they're at beautiful colleges, and they're happy and healthy now, there was a sacrifice that had to be made. So don't be afraid to sacrifice to get to where you're gonna be. Sometimes it's short term. Sometimes there's a long suffering with it, attached with it. But just be strong. Be strong. You guys are built for it. I feel the energy from all of you guys. I'm looking at all the faces here. You're built.
We all have stories. The stories that I wanted to share this because you're asking. possessed back in the day, and have been in Food Lines and all kind of things. Just about everybody has a story here, and say, you did that. Well, listen to my story. You did that. Oh, you can hear my story. We all have the stories. But I would tell you this. It's changing our mindset. See, God will meet us at the top of the mountain just as he will when we at the bottom of the mountain. But it's our mindset that will help us in the hard times. So it's one thing to say, oh, I hope, I don't know. Will either stay. Understand that. And then one day I was like, I get it. When we live a life of gratitude, even in the midst of what you're going through, not that you're grateful for it, but in spite of it, you'll start seeing little by little it turning around according to how we think and according to what we say. It matters, you guys. It matters. It mattered to me. But yes, it's called Broken Fences, Memoir of a Silent Sufferer. And you mentioned it. There's a silence that we go through that we don't talk about, and because of various reasons, we don't talk about it. But that breaks down our mental state. It breaks down everything. But when we can start thanking God and being able to have a grateful heart and being able to speak those things that be not as if though they were, and begin to get those resources and plan and start moving toward it. And proximity is everything. Be around people that have done it and that are out of that, and then ask them questions and begin to plan and move. We can sha-ta-ta all day long, but if we hide in our car from the repo man, something is wrong. But begin to move, in what begin to move and move in that what as we begin to talk with people and find out from different ones, well, how did you do that? And how did you do that? Then put those into practice. See, somebody once said, knowledge is power. It is not. Applied knowledge is power. When I found out when my mama passed, before she passed, she had CDs just sitting in the bank. And had I not understood about financial services, and I'll make this really quick, had I not understood about financial literacy, we were able to talk with her about moving her money into an index annuity that compounds, that has that compounding effect. And her money grew by 8%. And it was in there for a while. And then we didn't expect her to pass away when she did. But when she passed away and I got that check, guess what? We didn't have to go to GoFundMe. We didn't have to ask the church. We didn't have to ask family and friends. We were able to pay off everything because of that index annuity that compounded. We were able to grieve now without having a financial strain. But who's talking about that in the middle class? Who's talking about that in our communities? So there are things there's information that's out there that needs to be had, that needs to be talked about, so that we won't be stressed out, especially when we have situations like that. So we want to be here for one another, give information, and be able to be that resource so that we can help one another.
And that's great. Let's give her a hand of applause. And Ivana, I'm gonna sneak in a little financial question too, because we've all kind of said at some point the word compounding. What does compounding in the most simplest terms mean for someone if they have an account?
So you'd be surprised. So the compounding effect. If someone were to ask you, would you take $1 million today or a penny doubled every day for the next 30 days? What would you take? Yeah, but a lot of people would say $1 million. And it's interesting because after that 30 days, if it doubles every single day for 30 days, it's $5.3 million in just 30 days. So that's the power of compounding. It's doubling your money. Typically you can double your money in the stock market every 7 to 10 years. If you remain with a long-term perspective. That's the key though, because a lot of people money is very emotional to them. The psychology of money is a crazy thing. And when people start to lose money, like in a little bit of a chaotic or volatile time, people want to pull out their money. They want to get out of their investments and they can't time the market. Nobody can really time the market. If someone's telling you they can time the market, they're lying to you. So staying, having that long-term horizon, having that long-term perspective and, riding the volatility up and down, it will reward you in the end.
What would, if we actually had true economic security for women, what would that look like how would we design that in the systems right now with caregiving in mind?
Well, I would start with work-life balance, but that's an interesting topic just because to be great at anything, you obviously have to work hard. But then what is that taking you away from? It's taking you away from your health. It's taking you away from your friends, your family. So what does it matter if you're at the top of your career and you have none of those things? Again, going back to that scenario of saying, oh, what would you say if I gave you $1 million? You would say, yes, I'll take it. Well, what would you say if I gave you $1 million, but you don't wake up tomorrow? Then you wouldn't take it. And that's because waking up the next day is worth more than $1 million. And so that balance, you got to find it. It's hard to find, but you need to prioritize your career while also seeing your family, friends, and your health. Ultimately, your health is most important.
I would say, because you're asking what it would look like if we have that balance, right? If we have it. So I would say 4 institutions, 4 things. And it's very similar to what I propose for my widows. And that is this. Number 1 is family having responsibility, right? So the first is responsibility of the family. That if there's balance, then caregiving shouldn't be just on one person. Okay. And we should plan for caregiving. Okay, it's for our parents and different people, right? So it shouldn't be just on the one that's the woman or the one living in the house. Like I said, I have 4 siblings. It should be a plan of who's going to take care of the money, who's going to take care of the logistics. That's too much to put on one person. And so that's something that we know is probably inevitable. So it needs to plan. And so the families need to take responsibility and not throw it on one person. Secondly is the businesses of what we talked about already, which is our workplace, recognizing the reality of the life of the people that are serving them and not ignoring this part of life called caregiving. And 73% of the workforce are caregivers and working. And so to ignore that is egregious. So that's resources from the business and workplace sector. Then thirdly is recognition from the government. Many of you may not be aware, but the Medicaid pays about $178,000. They pay 60% of the $178,000 for nursing care for Medicaid, right? And so what we don't know is that when we take on that responsibility, we save them 60%, the 60% they will be responsible for. When we take on healthcare and caregiving, then we save them that money. So it's estimated, because it's 63 million caregivers right now, we save them $873 billion that they don't have to pay because we're doing it uncompensated. So guess what? The government should give us credits. Tax credits. So that's the other part, recognition from the government. And then lastly, I'm going to talk to the church. The church should help to provide rest, provide a Sabbath, because every caregiver needs a rest.
That's terrific. I think that ties everything up that what we were saying. And I don't want to run out of time because I feel like we might have some really good questions out there, if that's okay. Does anyone have a question?
Okay.
My question, I think this is for all three, for the all three sponsor, what is your opinion? What have you said to the all three, for all of what country you right now, in a said to the what country?
Great question.
I love that our first question came from one of the only guys in the room, Devontae.
So that's my brother, you guys. So his question was, goes through my mind as a caregiver for three people before mom passed, as well as being an entrepreneur at the same time? Okay, so I'm glad you asked that question. And this is my experience. I was able to care for them, but also balance my life because I learned how to leverage. As an entrepreneur in the financial services industry, I've learned how to leverage so that I can get paid while doing whatever I need to do. Like as quiet as kept, I'm getting paid right now, and I'm over here with y'all because I've learned how to leverage. So, but I had to learn that, and things don't just happen. You have to learn how to do that, be around people that do, and ask questions. But in the entity that I have, we're able to do that, and it makes such a big difference. So now I'm able to spend time with my brother. Well, I have to schedule it. We got to spend time on fast. Right. But I'm able to do that. But I have to tell you, when all of that dropped in my lap, it is hard. I'm not here to paint a picture or It's hard. Life is going to be hard anyway. Yes, it's hard taking care of three grown folks. But God is able, and if my strength was not in him, I'd be a Betsy bug. So, to answer your question, I'm grateful. I am eternally grateful to know that I was able to do both and still am able to do both and to have that balance and to plan and to go to Cancun and wherever I need to go because I'm putting things in place and planning already, and being able to make money because I'm leveraging, so it's possible. All things are possible for those that believe. All things.
So we have some great questions here clearly from everyone paying attention. So one question actually for you, Kenya, how can cortisol levels be tested?
There's a cortisol level.
Okay. Is it something you go to the doctors for?
Yes.
Okay.
You can go in and have your cortisol level tested.
Okay. And we haven't talked about this much, but if someone wants to tell us, what is a living trust and why should you have a living trust? How do you do it? Mm-hmm.
I have one.
Me too.
So you should have one.
I actually have a federal trust. I put that in place last summer, and we're finalizing everything now. And I tell you, that is just the most amazing thing ever. And that is where the trust owns everything. So nobody can sue me for nothing. Not that, but I'm grateful to be connected with people that have done that and are doing that. And I see how it's working and being educated in it and doing my research. And I am it's absolutely phenomenal. Yes, so that's all right. Thank you.
So for the living trust, there's a broader estate planning that should be done. Every person should really have 4 documents in their life. It's their will, it's a living trust, and it's your power of attorney over your healthcare and power of attorney over your financials. And so what the revocable living trust will do is you'll write out your wishes so that, one day when we move on, your money goes where you want it to go. Because if you don't have a will, you don't have a trust, it goes through probate. And then the government wants to take from it. And it's a really long, expensive process. To avoid that extra heartache on your family members where they're already grieving, they already lost you. Avoid that extra heartache. It's a lot of money to go through. So put down what you want and where you want it to go. It can be changed. It can be amended at any time. It can be restated. But it's important to have those 4 documents as part of your broader estate planning.
So do you think a woman should pay herself monthly, or we can open this up to anyone, or purchase CDs or go into savings accounts? What can we do besides the 401k or 403b or whatever kind of retirement planning you have? What do you recommend for women to do?
So it depends where you're at. I would say first you'll want to build up an emergency fund. So some kind of savings account where you have expenses of 3 to 6 months of living expenses on hand. You don't really want that invested because you don't want to, mess with the market if it goes down and you need to pull money out for whatever, for any kind of emergency. You don't want that tied up there. CDs are a great option, but the issue with CDs and why you should have some money in a growth account is because CDs are giving you 3 to 4%, call it. Inflation is 3 to 4%. You're net zero. You're not going anywhere. So we feel it when we go to the grocery store. It's getting more expensive. Our purchasing power is eroding. So you need a portion of your money working for you and growing for you. And you can do that through a brokerage account. You can, add, call it $50 a week, $100 a month, whatever you have that you can have discretionary funds. You can put it into a joint account, and that money is not tied up. It's not locked up. There's no holding periods. It's yours. You can, take it out when you want to. But I would say first the emergency fund and then into an investment account that's growing for you.
Can I just tell a real story about that? Because I needed you like 40 years ago when I was divorced. But I remarried after that. But and so I was left with $60,000 of debt. And so you're talking about saving, women putting themselves first. So I want to say, though, because of the way I was raised, though, I understood that even in negotiating debt, because some of you may think, oh, I owe so much, so you're just trying to pay off everybody. Don't do that. Like she said, I learned that you can set the boundary for the people you're paying back. They're trying to push you to pay back so much money. But listen, if all you got is $300, then give them $50 a month. Like, you have control over what you do. And so I learned that. And eventually what I saved was able to pay off because I had it compounding and doing different things. You can then pay off money, but don't leave yourself where you don't have anything because you're in debt and you owe everybody. Make them wait. You don't have to give it to, make sure you pay yourself and have emergency funds.
Do we have any other questions from anyone? Here.
And what about some of the tools that you should utilize? Of course, your emergency fund, some investments. One of the ones that I've started doing just in recent years is looking for high yield accounts. So American Express offered a high yield account, and for a while it was over 5%. So you still have access to that money, easy access to the high yield account, but you can grow your emergency fund. We actually set up one of our emergency funds for our children through that account. So we were still getting some high yield behind that particular account. So that's just another tool that you can use. But American Express offers one, and a few other banks do too.
And what I've found is that, and it took some time, but I've also found that, I found that, the wealthy, they don't even use banks. They actually use life insurance. And so when you're able to get to that point to understand that, that's why we're here, is to share some information. So when I found out that you can actually use life insurance, and there are different products that you can use to pull from that, like, an IUL, for example, it will give that compounding effect, and you can borrow from that. So there are different ways that money grows. There's like 3 different ways that money can grow. And so as we understand how that works, how the banks work, how, that variable works and how, the index annuity works, because it grows in 3 different ways, for example. And then we're still talking about, how we can save. And yes, pay yourself. But, money grows three different ways. Your CDs, your savings account, and your money markets, your bonds, they're all in that same fixed account. Like, remember when you're growing up, and I'd like to use analogies if you don't mind me saying this. When I grew up, my mama used to always say, what goes on in this house, what stays in this house, right? So a fixed house or a fixed account, that's like a house. And all the kids are like your savings account, your CDs, your money markets, they're all in the same house, right? The great thing about a bank, is that it's relatively safe, right? FDIC insured up to $250,000 per account. Great. But we all know that it doesn't grow very much. Great. So great that if you can find a high yield, that's excellent. And most of us that are working, that are in the corporate arena, or you have a job and you have a 401k, 403b, or any kind of retirement, then that's the one that goes up and down whenever you hear the Dow Jones has plummeted 300 points. Well, that's your money also plummeting, right? But the safe, and the great thing about that is there's great growth. If you do have your money in your 401k, fantastic. The downside is can be kind of risky. However, there is one that, and I alluded to it earlier, that gives you both. It gives you the safety of the fixed and the growth of the variable, the one that goes up and down, and that is the index annuity. That one, you get the growth with no losses. Now, you don't get 100% of the growth, but you do get between like 65 and 85% of the gains. But the great thing is that you don't lose in that. So that is something that we can, if you have a lump sum, you can just put it in there and leave it. You have that. Maybe you just sold your home or your grandmother's home or wherever. And, just instead of just putting it in a bank where you're not really gaining much, just dump it into an index annuity. If you have 5,000, 10,000 or more, you can just dump it in there and leave it, and it will compound over time. So that's another way that you can actually just use these various vehicles and pay yourself and start a legacy for your posterity, for your children and your children's children.
Slow and steady adds up after
Absolutely.
a while.
Yes.
A couple of questions just more on the living trust. If you have beneficiaries on your insurance, do you still need to have a living trust? And I think that if anyone would like to explain why you would still need a living trust.
Yeah, you still would want it. Even if you have a living trust, you still want your beneficiaries named outright. Anything that doesn't fall under like the beneficiary realm, it'll go by the living trust. And so that's why it's important to have it. I mean, it can be any kind of your wishes. It doesn't have to just be your like monetary things. And so having a living trust of what you'd like to do when you pass on is still important.
And do you need an attorney to set up your living trust?
Yes, you should. I know a lot of people are trying to use like ChatGPT right now. It's not a great loophole. Don't try it. I think there's affordable ways to get it done. And so I think you can have kind of like a draft or help it, write your thoughts down. But you do need an attorney to get that done.
And, we had a question about, in general, what kind of business opportunities or investment opportunities have you had success with that you would recommend people just to have in their mind?
Yeah, I mean, for a living, obviously, I invest other people's money in the stock market. Again, volatility is no phenomenon. There could be years like 2020 where it went down 34% and it still ended up 16%. Those are uncomfortable times. It's like flying on a plane when there's a lot of turbulence. You're not going to go up in the cockpit and knock on and saying, what's going on? What's going down? You kind of just have to ride the waves. And if you do, and you can kind of have that even temperament, you are rewarded in the end because you do over time return about 6 to 7 at least % in the stock market. There's a lot of vehicles though.
I would say for me, what worked for me before, I wouldn't necessarily do now, but because my husband and I used to flip real estate, and that's really where we make millions of dollars from real estate. So now I don't do that because it was mainly him. And I was just doing the administrative part because he passed away. So, But what I do follow is this model, which is insurance, because that's what I was going to say about the story. And one of the reasons why I'm here is because I like to share what I learned late for others to learn early. And that is this. We had built millions of dollars of a portfolio, had 5 homes, had 3 businesses, had car dealerships, all that stuff. But then when he had one stroke, and then I had to become his caregiver, all of that began to fall apart. And so even though with all of the financial acumen, when I built the financial house, guess what? What was missing was insurance.
The foundation.
The foundation. Because I didn't know at that time, with all that we had built, that insurance was the foundation of a financial house. And so that's why I want to just warn everybody, you can build as big as you want to, but one sickness, one illness, one accident, then it can all go away, because that's exactly what happened. So now I am probably overinsured, but IULs, I invest in IULs. I have a whole lot of things like that have done very well in terms of IULs, index universal insurance, that are very good vehicles. And now I use the formula, like basically anything that's for me, this is for me, anything that's risky, when I get lump sums, I'm only gonna allot 5% to anything risky. Everything else is going into insurance or something that's safe.
And I think I didn't know what IUL, there's always all these acronyms and different things. And I think one of the important things is to always ask questions and be curious. And I would want to learn from these women, so I would ask them questions and things like that. So you should always be looking out for yourself and asking questions.
Absolutely. So that is the Index Universal Life. So that is a life insurance product that gives the compounding effect. It grows between 4 and 12%. And when you're able I don't like using the word invest, I'll say, because it's almost like having your own bank. When you're able to set aside money and put it in there for your use down the line, it will compound over time. I have several IULs as well as an annuity, an index annuity, that is where that's the lump sum, put it in and leave it. And then when you have that financial stability, most of us build our house upside down. If you think of a triangle, right? Many of us will put our 401ks, our retirement as our foundation, because that's our go-to if something happens. It's like, well, let me just pull from that, right? And then, we'll pull from, maybe if you have savings, we'll pull from our savings, or we'll put our house up, and we'll put and then the last thing may be our life insurance, if you have it. See, so it's built upside down, but we're here to share with you to turn that thing right side up. So your financial house is your life insurance with living benefits, meaning I'm a broker, all right? So I represent about 30 some odd different life insurance carriers. But with those, many of them have living benefits, which says if you get a heart attack or stroke or cancer, get hit by a car or lupus, anything that's going to stop you from working where you have to stay at home and recover, what living benefits says, if you cannot do only 2 out of the 6 daily living activities, those in healthcare understand that, meaning you need someone to help you bathe. You need someone to help you transfer from the chair to the bed. You need someone to help you eat. You need someone to help you toilet. All those things. You're 6 of those. But if you cannot do only 2, then you qualify. And with our carriers, many of them, some of them even give you 100%. You can access between 20 and 90 or even 100% of the entire death benefit. Can I give a quick example?
Please do.
Okay. So, for example, I have a friend of mine who, I think it was about 6 years ago, her husband had a major stroke, and he was only 38 years old. Yeah. She had 4 beautiful kids. She still has them. She has 4 beautiful children. And he was the breadwinner. He was a graphic designer, and he was at home taking care of the children, and she was running errands. She was a stay-at-home mom. And she called home to check on the kids because her husband was at home. And her 4-year-old daughter said, honey, where's your daddy? She said, Mommy, Daddy's taking a nap on the kitchen floor. What? She got home. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. She took him to the hospital, and the doctor said, Miss Frampton, I'm so sorry. There's nothing we could do. Your husband had a major stroke. He's going to have to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, and there's nothing we could do. Now, her head is spinning, if you can imagine that. But guess what? She remembered, wait a minute. I have a policy, a life insurance policy with living benefits. And they had just gotten it a year before. She called the carrier. Sure enough, they verified everything. And they sent over to her 90% of her death benefit, which was over $200,000. Not 200, not 2,000, 200,000. So what she did with that, she took her husband to Northwestern, got him the best physical therapist. Then she turned around and purchased a car that was wheelchair accessible to get him back and forth. You guys, today, that man is a walking and talking. I'm telling you, to God be the glory. His hand is stuck a little bit and he limps, but he's not in a wheelchair. She got her husband back, and those babies, they got their daddy back. That's the power of living benefits. That is the power of what we do. But who's talking about that in the middle class? Who's talking about that in our neighborhoods? Right? So that is part of your financial home. When you have life insurance as your foundation, it includes living benefits. So that way you're using OPM, other people's money, not yours.
I think I know what everyone's going to say, but I'm going to ask this question. What age should women start these investing ideas? Now, yesterday.
When you start working. That's when you start. You start as young as possible. But if it didn't happen when you're younger, it's not too late. Start doing it now. That emergency fund is the start. Is the start. You know, one of the tools that so if you have a company to build that investment portfolio, it's something that I really just started getting into. So if you are a small business owner, start looking at that profile. Don't let that bank account just start, ballooning and you're so impressed with yourself. Start investing that money and making that money grow for you also. So that was another tool that I
just want to share this because I think it's so powerful, and it's some of the things I share with people that consult with me. But I want to share it here for free because it's so important. Wealthy families use the tools that we just talked about, the IULs, to create what they call family banks. So in terms of what you just said, the real way to really create wealth, and thanks to Tracy, because Tracy knew about some of what I went through financially, devastating, because that's the reason why I got into insurance, because then I realized, oh my God, we didn't insure nothing, Oh, but it's all kinds of insurance, not just life insurance, because an accident can take away things, so you need all kinds of insurance. But this is the thing you need to know. Those IULs, what wealthy people do is when their babies are born, 2 weeks old, they start an IUL. And instead of buying your kids all this other stuff and designer dollar policy, when you started at 2 weeks. So what they do is everybody in the family has an IUL. IULs are built upon 100 years, right? And so that's why it's cheaper if you start when you're babies. And so that's what grandparents, a lot of us are grandparents age. I'm just saying, right? So what we should do is give that for a birthday gift, right?
I love that.
Start
The answer
build-
is 2 weeks you should start it.
2 weeks. 2 weeks old, because guess what happens? When they're 18, that now they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account that they can spend. And when they want a car, they can buy their own car, and you can teach them financial literacy with their own thing. So then the family all has their own banks. So then they borrow when they need a car, they borrow from their own account or from one of the family accounts. And so instead of paying Chase, they pay your own self back. Imagine if you every bill you had, you were paying back to yourself.
And they're not going to remember that they didn't have that little toy at 2 weeks old.
Can I share a quick story to that point? I knew of a woman who did exactly that. When her granddaughter was born, she tucked away $350 in an IUL for her granddaughter. And she wanted to put her granddaughter through college when she turned 18. So she did $350 for 18 years, and she had it structured, because you structure these things. She had it structured for 18 years. And at year 18, she didn't have to pay anymore. But what didn't stop was the cash value inside of the IUL. It continued to grow and compound. And the grandmother was really smart. She had benchmarks. So when the granddaughter turned 25, she was able to pull out $30,000, and she bought her car. And when the granddaughter turned 30, she was able to pull out $50,000 to put down on her dream home. That's how you can use these. Exactly to your point. Yes.
No, that was great.
This is terrific.
No, I know what gifts I'll be giving.
Yes. And I guess we'll just wrap it up with some closing thoughts. If anybody had anything, we covered so much. Let's give a hand to our panel here. And if anyone has any closing thoughts or anything you'd like to add here, your wisdom has been so appreciated so far. So thank you so much.
Just real quick, I just want to thank you guys. It's just wonderful being around a bunch of women, beautiful women during Women's History Month. This was very, very nice. I haven't done any panel work since I was in the Air Force, so seeing all these bright and shining faces and the 2-3 men that are here, thank you too. Thank you as well. But the departing thing is that we've talked about balance here today. So there are going to be ups and downs, of course. But when you're down, look to God, pray to God, get back on your feet, get to that position where you can be a blessing to others. That's what I'd like to share. Thank you.
And if we came here to just listen and not put something to practice or don't do anything with what you hear, then what's the point? So my encouragement is to do something, or get off the pot. Do something with what you've heard. Do something. Please don't think, oh, I don't have enough to do anything. Yes, you can. Just start small. You can. I had that one mindset years ago, but it's all about renewing this and knowing that, yes, I can, even if it's something small. So just start.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for your time. I have no ending remarks, but I had an awesome time with all of you guys. And I would just, again, urge you to go home, sit down, look at your finances. Wealth can be a really powerful tool, and it's freedom and it's peace of mind, and it'll lower your stress if you can start building early and putting it away. So ultimately, it's about taking care of yourself first, though.
Same here. I just want to say change starts at the kitchen table. We can't try to change systems before we change our families. So let's start where it really should start, and have these conversations, start building wealth, because the life we save may be your own.
I think that it's kind of perfect. Thank you. I think that it's kind of perfect that we're doing this on a day where the season has changed and it is gorgeous outside, because the energy up here has been fantastic. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone who came out. Thank you, Facebook Live. I hope you enjoyed yourself. That was literally a wealth of information. Play on words there. Literally wealth of words, And I hope that you got something out of this, out of them. Beautiful women with power. And so we enjoyed you. Thank you all for saying yes to be on this panelist and moderating. Absolutely wonderful information. So I'm not Delphine. I am Christy. But Delphine used to give gems or words of encouragement or something that she took away from the panelists that have been going on in the past couple of weeks. So a colleague helped me get this information. So I'm going to read out some of the gems tonight that came across the stage. Be selfish because you need you. That was one of the statements that were made. So remember that. Be selfish because you need you. I'm going to take that to heart. Thank you. I'm a caregiver, so I'm going to have to learn how to be selfish. And I'm actually in this point right now. And it's been hard. It's been hard. But you must do it because you don't want to be in a position to have to be cared for. So take the time for yourself, slow it down, reflect, and everything that they talked about tonight is true. And so I'm on that pathway. So small steps, but one step in front of the other, and you have to start somewhere. So thank you for that. Balance for me is no. That's you. You said that. Balance for me is no. We have to look at the blessings in the midst of caregiving. Caregiving can be traumatizing. It can take away your breath or whatever, but in the midst of it, that person is still here and you are allowed to care for them. So in that, that's a blessing versus them going into the hospital, somebody else who don't care, and, you know, having them to leave earlier than they should have had you had them. So caregiving is a blessing in the midst of, it's a blessing in the midst of caregiving. And I'll be counted that because I was blessed to be able to care for my mom who went on in October, but she was 91. So we good. We good. Rules. Rule number 1, don't lose money. Don't lose money. Be wise when you're doing whatever you're doing, investing, whatever. You heard a lot of information of where to put that money in, a lot of pockets that it can go in, that it will bring you back interest and more money than what you put in. And number 2, refer back to rule number 1. Don't lose money. Okay, and then lastly, start investing your cushion. Some of us have money under the mattress. Some of us have money in the shoebox. And some of us have accounts that we don't even remember. Go get those accounts and start investing. And investing starts, you have these ladies up here that $100 is a start somewhere. And it could compound, it could do whatever. If you put, $10 here, whatever. So it's never too little. The point is start somewhere. And once you start and you see what's going on with that, you're going to be like, oh man, I should have been doing this a long time ago. But it's never too late, and start now. So give everyone a round of applause. We thank everyone for coming out. Thank you so much.
And I hope to see everyone at Dr. Tracy's book talk pretty soon.
She also has a table back there about all the different insurances she talked about tonight. See, darling, she has books. She's a widower. She has a widower program. They go all over the country helping widows. She gets donations and all kind of things to take over to across the country to those who are widowers. We in the United States are blessed, and so over in another country, they're not as likely to get what we get as widowers. So she's able to have that and, bless other ones over there. So everyone up here has something to give. So you could come and talk to them afterwards. We're going to take pictures. So stay up here. We'll take pictures afterwards. I'm going to be the Delphine, so I'm going to take pictures. So excited. So just thank you for coming out. Next Tuesday is our last women's series. It's about nutrition and health. And we're going to have a real live food demonstration. And so, same place, same time. The platform will be one speaker about nutrition. That'll be a heavy hitter from Chicago Department of Public Health. We're going to talk about SNAP. We're going to talk about food stamps. We're going to talk about what's going on for those that we help. We non-for-profit, so they're messing with our money. So we'll hear about that next week. And then afterwards, we have someone who has their own restaurant on the west side of Chicago from Brazil. It's a hidden gem. So make time to come out. We'll appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Give everybody a round of applause. Thank you.
That worked out well because you did a great job at that. So thank you. Sorry I had